All right, good morning, everybody. Our first speaker today is the Minister responsible for Youth Development and Sports in St. Lucia, the Honorable Kenson Casimir.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. I just apologize for the way I sound. It's been a very, very, very eventful few weeks. As you would know, St. Lucia hosted another Caribbean Premier League event over the weekend, over the last week. 5 games held at the Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds. St. Lucia doing very, very well against Antigua. Bumper crowd at the stadium, Darren Sammy Stadium. Also doing very well against St. Kitts. Very well against Guyana. We had an unfortunate decision against Trinidad, and we had one game washed out. But generally, St. Lucia did very well over the last couple of weeks in terms of hosting and having those events. Very proud of the support that we showed at the Darren Sammy Cricket Grounds. Also, we know that Julian Alfred, Diamond League champion, doing very, very well for us as a nation. And so we're eternally grateful and proud of her and the way she continued to represent us around the world. In other things locally, we are officially opening and renaming the Groseley playing field this Saturday, September 6th. We have 2 semi-pro games. In between those semi-pro games, we will be officially opening the stadium, the mini stadium. We will be renaming the stadium. We will be renaming the stands at the stadium and also projecting some other events that will occur at the Groseley Mini Stadium. We are using the theme, the legacy of Groseley. Pretty much we will be highlighting some of those who really contributed to sports development in the constituency. We will be paying homage to them. We're expecting a bumper crowd at the Groseley Mini Stadium. We will be making pronouncements. Of course, we're expecting Cabinet, the Prime Minister, myself, and other dignitaries to be at this event. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of work has gone into establishing a mini stadium in Groseley. In other news from Groseley, we've continued works on the Riviera, but we do have works ongoing from the Monsitor to Riviera Highway Road. We continue to work on that road. We recently commenced work in the area of Norbe Vesikwi. We have an expansion of that road that is ongoing. Reno Construction has been doing a very, very stellar job in that community. And all of that would pretty much foreshadow works to commence from Monjuro, a 4-lane highway on the Julian Hunt Highway, from Monjuro into Cap Estate. And so we're very, very proud of the works that we continue to do in Groseley. We also hosted the grand opening, the official opening to constituents and St. Lucia and the wider world of our recreational beach park in Pigeon Point in the community of Groseley. We had performances from the likes of Ricky T and other local acts, and another achievement done by this parliamentary rep on behalf of the people of Groseley. Questions?
Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
So my first question is, do you have any update or details on the development of the Olympic pool?
Yes, we have had some works ongoing at the Olympic pool. The St. Lucia Aquatic Center work continues on that. We had a visit from MUFA some time ago. We've not had the expansion of work that I would have expected, but we've continued to engage the contractor. The National Lodges Authority is obviously in charge of the supervision of these works. We currently have work ongoing. If you pass near the facility, you would see work on the foundation of the 50-meter pool. We're expecting by the end of September, we have a lot of people going to school right now, so semester is in my mind. We would have by the end of September some really definitive work on the actual pool area. And so we're expecting for significant progress before the end of this year.
Are there any plans for now, maybe in the near future, to make swimming, the sport, more accessible to grassroots? communities?
Absolutely. We do have a plan for establishing a 25-meter pool in Viewfort, so we can actually have a decentralized area for swimming. We do want to have a national swimming contest among secondary schools. That is pretty much the actual thrust to which we want swimming to develop. So from the secondary school, any sport that you want to develop, you have to develop it from the schools. And so similar to the Island Champs, we want to have a weekend event for swimming. That is why I'm pushing, as a minister, that I've been pushing for the establishment of the National Aquatic Center. But the Learn to Swim program for all schools, all secondary schools, we're expecting that by Form 3, that most individuals would be mandated to at least have life-saving skills in the water, and by extension, individuals being able to swim properly, and individuals that are national swimmers as well. So we're certainly hoping for a very expansive swim program come next year.
Yeah, good day, Mr. Minister. Yeah, so talking about the Grizzly and the development, there's one issue I think we've mentioned before, and now that the community is expanding, you have the beach facility, the mini stadium, it's Friday night especially, but the traffic management, that is an issue that has been, I think, not much concern, but the bus drivers especially still haven't got a proper, busing area or bus stop, and then on a Friday night you find vehicles are parked all over the place. Bus drivers themselves cannot get in and out of Grizzly. Mm-hmm. There's also an area by the seaside, I think, Iriba, mm-hmm. and there's a fish thing, and people driving all around. I nearly got myself in trouble with a guy last time because I was speaking about it. Grizzly to me is not a place that people should be driving all over every street mm-hmm. in Grizzly, especially on a Friday or on an activity. Is there any plan in place to address this issue? Because we know traffic management is an issue that you get people sometimes, imbibed with drink, and in the street you cannot have vehicles and people. Is that an issue, seeing that the development is widening now in Grizzly?
I appreciate the question, because the question indicates that Grizzly is currently a bustling and thriving area of commercial activities. And if you remember Friday night from 20 years ago, it was just the main street, Dover Street. But Friday night has really expanded, especially to the right coming in of Bay Street all the way to, now we've actually opened a beach park, and so we're expecting even more activities along the shores. The fact of the matter is we continue to have conversations with the police in terms of traffic management. I must say congratulations to the Grizzly Police. They've worked tremendously over the last year in terms of, we've seen significant improvement in terms of protecting individuals who come to Friday night, so they've put in the extra effort. The fact of the matter is this government took the position of ensuring that we have a northern divisional headquarters. And it's not just a police station. We always say the Grizzly Police Station because that's how we'll affectionately know it, especially Jacques Grizzly people. But with a northern divisional headquarters, we will have traffic as part of the mandate of policing in Grizzly. That is why it's a headquarters. So you have traffic, you have homicide, you have certain sections. We've given priority to different dynamics. And so we're certainly expecting that upon completion, we will have all the dynamics of a traffic management aspect of policing in Grizzly that will be properly, we're given the proper mandate in terms of ensuring that traffic management is done through all aspects of Grizzly, and ensuring that we have the manpower for policing in Grizzly. You made mention of a bus stop for Grizzly. We've been having discussion on a proper area for actually bringing in tourists, bringing in passengers, dropping them off, other than what we currently have. We have been having discussion on where that could be. We do not have an actual final answer as we speak, but we're certainly working with the patrons, we're certainly working with the police, and as you'd appreciate, a number of vendors continue to spout up, a number of persons turning their homes right now into bars, turning their homes into smaller restaurants, providing food. And so with that, we have a higher number of people coming in. And so we do not want to discourage enterprise, but we must find a balance to ensure that we have proper traffic management, proper flow through the community, and most importantly, the actual protection of individuals who come to Grocery Friday night. But as we speak, we have more and more people getting involved in enterprise, and it's something that we're hoping as soon as we've established that traffic department with the Royal St. Lucia Police Force through the divisional headquarters, we'd have a more thorough and robust plan to deal with traffic management for the constituency of Grocery.
Yeah, and just quickly, briefly, the Northern Division, how is the work progressing along those lines?
The work is progressing very well. I'm certainly hoping that at some point, at least one of the aspects of the headquarters would be opened up as we await the other areas. As you would see, this is not an ordinary police station. We are talking about multipurpose courts for recreation for police. We're talking about holding cells. We're talking about courtrooms. We're talking about, as I just spoke, different sections, including traffic, homicide, investigations. And so it's a really, really extensive and modern police station that is for the bustling population in the north. And so we've seen the progress. Obviously, when you're dealing with policing, you need comfort. You need to have dormitories that are comfortable for the police. And so all of that has been inputted in this venue. And we're certainly hoping that very, very soon. We do not want to rush. I personally am rushing them and asking them, when are we finishing, when are we finishing? But we want something really solid for the police. They deserve it. They've been left without a proper home for so long, and we're certainly hoping that by end of year into next year that we have something complete in totality. But we're certainly hoping very soon at least one aspect of the police station can be opened.
Just final question for me, Mr. Minister. What will the Grocery Mini Stadium be renamed?
I invite all of the media to come on Saturday from about 7 p.m. We will be having the biggest artists in St. Lucia. We're talking about Ricky T, Keisha K, we're talking about Ezra, we're talking about Imran Nudi, we're talking about the best soca artists and some of the other musical icons to actually serenade every single patron. We will be having pan time, we will be having so many activities, and there is no way I can let that cat out of the bag. It's somebody who is from the community, who's contributed to sports development in the constituency, and it won't just be one individual. There will be other individuals recognized for their stellar performances in St. Lucia, in the region, and the world, and we certainly won't be doing just the stadium. The street that we currently call Conchel Drive in Grosley, which many people don't know why it's named Conchel Drive, and I don't know anybody named Conchel doing anything for sports development in Grosley, will be renamed as well. We have the stands that we've just developed. We have other stands that will be coming in the future. And so it's really a chance and an opportunity to celebrate the legacy of sports in Grosley. And I can tell you that people have been craving this for more than 30 years. They've been craving this sort of recognition, this sort of pride in sports, because Grosley has a very rich sports culture and history. And finally, they will be recognized come Saturday. You are invited. Thank you all.
Any other questions?
Mr. Oil Voice.
Right, good question.
Ask him what he did yesterday.
I am sitting in for Melissa Paul, who is currently on well-deserved vacation leave. And my name is Kirby Allen. Our next speaker is the Honorable Richard Frederick, the Minister with responsibility for housing and local government. He has a few announcements to make. Minister?
Morning, everybody. Morning. You said few, but I want to announce, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I guess you all know Richard Frederick, Minister with responsibility for housing and local government. Some of you may have seen the closure of Serenity Park for a while. Unfortunately, we were not able to open for Carnival because the infrastructural works were yet to be completed. But I am pleased to announce that Serenity Park is back on track. a refurbished facility, which to which we have added rather a new amphitheater for the performing arts. We have changing rooms for male and female. We have vending booths for other persons who are interested in ensuring that they secure a spot to sell at Serenity Park, to vend at Serenity Park. And of course, we also have a changed fountain. You see, when a facility is built initially, it may have teething problems that one did not envisage during operations. And what we realize is that the crowds that converge on Serenity Park really, an injustice was being done to them in terms of not having enough space because the fountain took too much space. And so a decision was made. We actually closed down on the fountain. I could tell you now it's more aesthetically pleasing. And we have changed it. There are seats around it. And the grand opening will be on Friday, this Friday at 3 p.m. I'm very pleased with the final product. I am pleased at the quality of work the contractor has delivered to the government and people of this country. And I'm hoping that the park, a number of organizations called me, the banks called me, the older folk called me. I've received a number of calls because, as the name suggests, it's a really serene area, a place for reflection, for, you do all your personal thinking and whatever within that area, right next to a fountain. It makes a very good environment for that purpose. So I've been receiving a lot of calls, and so I felt the compunction to at least publicly inform those persons who are looking forward to the reopening of Serenity Park that will be done on Friday at 3 p.m. And like I said, we have added an amphitheater, we have added changing rooms for male and female, we have added vending booths, and we have changed the fountain, and we have added seats, to that general area. So it is, like I said, more aesthetically pleasing, and I do know that persons will want to converge on it as soon as we open on Friday.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Yes.
Do you have an update on the vending caravans at George V Park?
Yes, I do. Okay, the vending caravans, we have taken the decision to do list to own. This is a government that puts the interests of persons first, and I believe in people's empowerment. We have taken the decision. Initially, we felt that we could have rented the caravans and do the general management, but we have come to the realization that in that manner we will not be empowering our people as much as we would like to. So what we are going to do, and we will have a press release pretty soon and probably invite the media to the launch of that. We will do rent to own, where we list to you for a certain period, after which we transfer to you for $1. So that will be the arrangement, and St. Lucians who will pay rent for those caravans will pay rent for a period of time, after which, as long as all payments are completed, all payments are made on time, and other contractual obligations are discharged with perfection, you will get title to your caravan absolutely free once you have paid your rent for a defined period of time.
Yes, Mr. Minister, you speak about the busyness in Castries now, busy streets and caravans. What is the status with the, how we call them, the parking meters? It was something that
the parking meters. You see, sometimes, and like I said, when you inherit a project that is not your own, mind you, I believe in continuity. Governance is a concept that does not start and stop with a change of administration. If that happens, it just means that the electorate will be shortchanging them. And if one government continues where another government leaves off, as long as it's for the public good and there is no cost overrun. But this thing came with tremendous difficulty. There are about 3 or 4 contracts governing the operation of the meters. There is a profit sharing agreement, I can tell you, that is still yet to be regularized, because one party is saying, no, they promised us that amount of money, versus the other party saying, no, this is not how it is. And I can tell you, up to a week before elections, there were letters exchanging hands as it relates to the operation and profit sharing of the parking meters. When eventually we decided that, look, we are proceeding, I can tell you quite a bit of what was supposed to have been parts of the parking meters just went, we don't know where they went to. At customs, we had to dig and dig, bits and pieces were found, but it came with tremendous difficulty. And I could tell you it's something that I'm looking forward to. I've asked our people, should that one not, pan out, let us proceed alternatively, because I think we do need parking meters. There are people who would be compliant. There are people who are willing to pay as long as they can park in peace. So it's not a situation where we are against this kind of facility. We are for it, but it must be rolled out in a manner that is almost seamless and brings no headache to either the investors or us as a government or even the patrons of the parking meters. And that is what the difficulty is.
And still on the traffic issue, we know we've been having words. It's a long-term solution or something that needs to be remembered is the bus terminal, the busing. I know the Judge Fifth Park was Emark one time. There was once the Viewfort area. What is the position with making better traffic?
I don't want to say too much now, but I can tell you that a central bus terminal is on the cards of this government. Without even delving into cabinet discussions, because I'm not at liberty to, but I could tell you it is something that has been embraced unanimously, that we need a central bus terminal, basically to obviate the need for all those minibuses to be packed on the streets, creating extreme traffic difficulty, unnecessary congestion, and of course, hindering pedestrians as they go to and fro. So that is on the cards. I think the drawing is prepared, but what I can assure you, I don't want to speak from a standpoint of a time frame, but this Philip Joseph Pierre-led administration will see a bus terminal being built in the city not too long from now.
Little politics there.
The man pick up a phone to ask me a question.
Yeah, man.
You swear I see come here. Yes, folks.
Okay. Mr. Ruffler is saying that St. Lucian should wait for a UWP government before applying for a US visa because of St. Lucians getting rejected in higher numbers under SLP.
I'll say one thing. I am sure you remember the old saying, a promise that was made before the elections, that if you elect me, St. Lucians will not need a visa to go to the United States. You see, the sad thing is, when the Americans dictate and roll out their own policy measures, we are but a small fry in terms of the global apparatus. So America will do what is in America's best interest, and you cannot blame America for that. I've been hearing there are loads of countries the Americans believe are not friendly or may just not, maybe a threat to their national policies, whatever. It is up to America to do what's right for America. The sad reality is we may just happen to feel the ramifications, the adversarial ramifications of a policy that America rules out for America's sake. And I cannot fault President Trump. I cannot fault America if America believes that what we are doing is in our best interest. So I don't understand how Sarah Flood could make a statement like that. When you see those kinds of blanket statements, not substantiated by data, give me data and tell me that in 2017, 2018, there were a total of X applications, X were granted, X were rejected. You see, when some of those politicians speak, they play on the gullibility and the mental vulnerability of our people, and that's a fact. Because look, folks, one of the things, I don't blame anybody for crime. And one murder, in my view, is already too many. But when we talk about crime, and we saw the biggest surge in crime by 100% was under the last government. In 2016, we had 30 or 31 homicides. At the end of 2017, it was 60. I'm not saying there isn't a gradual increase, but the greatest surge, the most potent development in that regard is under the United Workers' Party, 100% increase. So if you have solutions, and you believe you have the solutions now, the question is, what prevented you from rolling out those solutions then? So we all, some of those people, they just spew a lot of, I wouldn't say garbage, but they spew, they make utterances that cannot be substantiated with data or with anything else. And all they do is, when they spew it, they play on the emotions of our people. They want to cause anxiety. They want to cause fear in the hopes that that will be the pathway to victory. But no, we control our borders. We do what we can down here for the interests of our people. They will never tell you that the economy grew for 4 consecutive years by over 3%. They will never tell you we have our lowest unemployment rate on record. They will never tell you NIC is now collecting the most contributions in its history. They will not tell you those things, but they will seek to burn down St. Lucia, burn a house, just to rule over the ashes. But I can say this, I do know, I feel it, people I converse with, people, of course, some people will tell you what you want to hear, but generally you go to places and then the degree of acceptability, the embrace that you receive, the warmth that exudes from those persons in whose environment you find yourself or in whose company you find yourself. Obviously, the government is getting a nod of approval for all the works that it is doing. You tell me we have the youth economy, and the guys are saying that they will stop the youth economy. That is ridiculous. We have young men now. There is one young man I know as a result of the youth economy now employs 20 people. You're telling me you're going to stop that and take the money to do what? To give DSH, to give T.O.R. King, to give this one. And it's just really nonsensical. And, Sarah Flood should have known better to talk about if you want visa, vote for unit. They need to come better than that. We've heard all of that. We've heard the grand charging. We've heard all of those things. Tell them will and come again.
Good afternoon again, Minister. During the last sitting of the House, you made a statement about the missing evidence at custody suites, the missing evidence being at custody suites when it was demolished by the former administration. There is an article quoting a police source as saying that the evidence was actually in View Fort. So with all of these stories...
You should have quoted me, and that's how you do it. And I'll give you one example. When it was said that I see that one of your colleagues has cancer. I never said that. Never. And that's why I said I challenge anyone to find a clip where I say so. I said my exact words were, not because Shasti is paying chemo for you that you have to do his bidding. That's all I said. And if you do your research, chemo is paid for several things. I ask questions in the house. I ask, isn't it possible that basically, that was the general context, the haste with which the police had to leave custody suites. There were officers working at the time when they were asked to vacate. They just saw windows being removed, air conditions being disconnected, excavators right there waiting, and they had to leave in a hurry. And what I would ask the media to do is to do some investigative journalism. Find out the 3 or 4 officers who were on duty and let them tell you the kind of situation with which they were confronted on that day when they were asked to get out of there within about 15 minutes. So it was a situation that exhibits were being kept there at custody suites. And I'm not sure whether any exhibits were lost, but basically I was alluding to the speed with which the officers had no choice but to vacate the premises.
Have you been able to verify whether the evidence in the 2 cases were also at custody suites at the time?
No, I have not been able to verify. You see, I was merely highlighting the egregious deeds, the way that things were done without observance of protocol, as opposed to making a pointed statement, blaming anyone. Because if we are asked to vacate here now, within 3 minutes, rest assured, none of you can take all your belongings or things, or even if they ask for an empty room, things will be left behind, given the short time within which we are asked to vacate. And that was the context in which I alluded to the demolition of custody suites.
Final question for me, Mr. Minister. You have been accused by the opposition and other members of the public of using your show as a platform to attack citizens. What do you say to this?
I will not answer that, because you see, I've told journalists that what they must not do is take propaganda and make it newsworthy. And I'm not prepared here to stand as a minister of government and to answer any question that bases the foundation is propaganda and make it newsworthy. So I'm not going to get into that.
Any other questions?
Question, we saw an upsurge in crime within the central Castries area, and just before you had talks with the guys for football, putting the 6 and 7s together. Will that be done basically to
Quell the situation.
That's it.
I can say without fear of contradiction, I am the only politician in the history of this country that has placed his life on the line in the interests of the prevalence of peace. Only one. I have actually brought them together and have stood between them, and I knew what I was surrounded by. I stood there, probably my face showed bravery, but I prayed whilst this was happening, because the slightest of incidents can cause war that would result in fatalities. I have tried, I continue trying. I've had the Peace and Love football competition after I brought the gangs together, brought them together, Peace and Love football competition. If you'll remember, in 2007, I became minister in 2006. 2007, the homicides had gone down to about 12. Had just gone right down, because who was supposed to have been an enemy of one, they suddenly became friends. And the sad thing is the guys fight over absolutely nothing. There's this operative word disrespect that prevails as justification for taking one's life. And disrespect can mean anything in their neck of the woods. But yes, I brought them together. I tried something. It worked, albeit for a while. But you see, sometimes when there are other considerations and other influences, so you may work hard to build a hole, and somebody comes with a backhoe and just cover that same hole that you worked hard to build or to dig manually. I will keep on trying. I will keep on doing whatever I can. Unfortunately, and I spoke of it in Parliament, that Saturday, one of the guys, the guy who was killed right there by the taxi stand, I had conversation with him. I told him I'd prefer them not lime in there. I'm not against them, but don't lime there, because the reality is they are putting innocent people's lives at risk. And so said, so done. He was unfortunately killed there. And a lady who has absolutely nothing to do with the prevalence of the animosity, she got shot. I put up a no loitering sign there. I had police, there was a fixation of police officers there. That is the extent to which I've gone. I really don't sit idly by. But when there are politicians and their immediate relations are involved in the criminal activity and they don't come out and call on their relations, it tells you, even in the prevalence of crime, there is utmost hypocrisy.
Okay, good day. Today I want to share with you a very important decision that was taken by the Cabinet of Ministers, and that has to do with the Crisis Center. Now, the Crisis Center has been in existence for a very long time, and to a large extent, the services offered was basically on a voluntary basis. They actually got more or less like a donation to house them, where a good Samaritan actually gave them the space to operate. However, the time came where the owner of the space required the space, and therefore they had to vacate that space. The role of the Crisis Center, in fact, is to assist women who have been involved in domestic violence matters, and they have certain serious matters to deal with, and therefore they come. I think the word speaks for itself in terms of crisis. When they are really in crisis, they are looking for help. And therefore, the Crisis Center would attend to the families, attend to the women who are affected. When we speak of Crisis Center, it's not supposed to be just for women. However, it's mostly women who access these services. And government, since they vacated the place where they were, they need to get a new location. And with a new board in place, they submitted a request to government, and government increased their subvention. The subvention that they used to get from government before was in the region of $72,000 a year, and that would assist in paying the rent and paying some staff support. At this point, as we speak, government increased that subvention by $168,000. So now the Crisis Center will be receiving to the tune of $240,000 from government, and they are going to get their own space. They are going to have increased staff, and this will help them attend to some of the needs of the people who have found themselves in domestic violence matters. So I felt it's something that it is a big achievement for us, and this is how the government of St. Lucia shows its support for especially women who have been involved in situations that are challenging and they are looking for support. So that's a big contribution from the government. In addition to the Crisis Center, we have just established a transition committee for the Women's Support Center. The Women's Support Center is an unknown location for women who have been involved in domestic violence in the home. And sometimes they have their children involved, and they have to get a safe place to ensure that the perpetrator is not able to access them and continue to abuse them. The place actually provides a kind of environment like a home, so they actually stay there. They can go to work and come back to that location. The children can go to school, but their perpetrator must not know where they are located. And that has to be done in terms of the support until the situation has been addressed, whether legally or otherwise. And we actually did a review of the Women's Support Center that is completed. And that review recommended that we have a transition committee that will transit that Women's Support Center to either an organization or a business, and it has to be registered. The employees of the Women's Support Center actually approached the Department of Public Service, represented by the union. They are represented by the CSA, indicating that there are certain conditions that they were dissatisfied with, only to find out that this Women's Support Center should have been a private entity. It's not a government entity. Government would just give them a subvention every year to allow them to function. The building where they operate belongs to government, but they are not under the direct jurisdiction of the government. So with that transition, the recommendation coming out of the review is stating that we need to make them a separate organization and not a government department. And they are given 6 months within which to make that transition, and we look forward to seeing the success. Representatives of that transition committee would comprise Director of Gender Affairs, the Permanent Secretary of the Department of Gender. We have representative of the police. We have representatives of the trade union that represent the employees, the Attorney General's chambers, and experts on gender-based violence. All these persons will form the director of the center itself. These persons will form that transition committee, and they are supposed to deliver within 6 months.
Good afternoon, Minister. Shifting gears a bit to your constituency, we saw it was announced last week that Mr. Estefan will be running for your seat. My question is, what led to that decision? And after your time in office, what advice do you have for Mr. Estefan going forward?
Okay, I am still awaiting the official correspondence on that matter. I was informed through a very short message, so I'm waiting for the official correspondence on that matter. When I get the official correspondence, I will respond accordingly. But as I said, the Labour Party has its process of selecting candidates. I am not the one that dictates that. And whatever the party agrees to, I have no objection to that. Because I went through that process before when I became a candidate. So I'm fully aware of the process.
Okay. My question is a follow-up question to hers. The opposition is also criticizing the changes of candidates by the sitting government. As such, it is a sign of failure. Can you tell us the benefits of changes in candidacy and how this is good for the democracy?
I don't think I'm in a position to talk about the benefits. Whoever is involved in the changes, they would know the criteria used for the changes, and they would be in a better position to explain what benefits are to be derived from that process.
Another follow-up. Again, what advice do you have for any other young person who wants to come into politics?
Okay, I think I spoke some time back about advice for women who wanted to participate in politics. But it could be a woman, it could be a man. Anybody who decides to go into politics, my advice to that person is, one, you need to be genuine and sincere. You must be concerned about the welfare of the people. And it is one where once you see you are not genuine and sincere, the people can actually pick that up very, very early. And you may find yourself in trouble. You must be prepared to make sacrifices. If you are not prepared to make sacrifices, I don't think politics is the best place for you. And for persons who may think that politics can enrich them overnight, that is a huge mistake. Because if you get very rich overnight in politics, the electorates will also pick you up. Because the salaries that they pay, the efforts that you put, the support you give to constituents, there is no way you can be very rich in politics. Politics is about, a politician is about service. And if you are not willing to make sacrifices, you are not willing to be able to give services, then it does not make sense going into politics, because you will still be, you will soon be called upon as to not being genuine and not being sincere.
Yes, Madam Minister, the area of the trade union, we know you have been an advocate for the trade union movement, and you've done. We had the labor code, you have the minimum wage. But in terms of employers and employees, we know there are certain regulations. Take, for instance, the health hazards of the working establishments. You know, a lot lately we're in a lot of mold and dew, and a lot of, you know, how does the officers regulate, you know, the standard of the workplace, and you know, in terms of the employees, the health and the welfare, and to you, in the time that you've been there, how would you say that the trade union has been shaping up? Is it really working in favor of the worker, and is there better agreement with the employers now? How would you see this shaping up?
Okay, that's a loaded question, but I will have to see how I can dissect it. With regards to the occupational safety and health situation in the workplace, it is one where my Department of Public Service, that is responsible for government facilities, all government premises, whether rented or owned, the government is responsible. And we had many incidents where we had mold. And to some extent, we felt that it had to do with the air quality, the ventilation, and even the construction mechanism that is used to establish these buildings. And the CSA did write to the public service asking that we have a forum with cleaning agencies and contractors and the unions and the Department of Public Service to look at how we can better address these issues. The Department of Labor has an occupational safety and health unit that actually goes out to do air quality tests and check for mold. And they have had so many visits, not just for government buildings, but also for buildings in the private sector. Because when employees complain about either they are falling sick, they are not feeling well, then we have to go and check if there are certain things in the environment that are not suitable for them to work. And we have tried to strengthen that unit by putting in additional staff, because the workload has been very heavy. It is one where, going forward, we have to engage all the stakeholders so that they can come up with a solution to the problem. It is said that a lot of the enclosed environments are not getting natural air, and they have to use the vents to remove some of the air inside and bring in fresh air off and on. They have to ensure that the ceilings, many people do the ceiling in concrete, and therefore there is water seepage in the ceiling, and that develops into mold. So there are many issues around that, and we feel that we need to get the scientific way of addressing the problem. With regards to the trade union and how they relate to the employer, we have strengthened the Department of Labor at this time. The Prime Minister did appoint a permanent secretary to the Department of Labor. We have established the Labor Tribunal. There was a backlog of cases at the Labor Tribunal. And with that, we expect that employee-employer relations will get greater attention. We have also tried to increase the staffing at the Department of Labor. And recently, we ratified 2 important ILO conventions, which deals with the Occupational Safety and Health Convention, and the other one dealing with minimum age for work. St. Lucia had never ratified these 2 conventions. And after the ratification of these 2 conventions, St. Lucia now has become the 2nd country in the Caribbean that has ratified all the 10 fundamental conventions of the ILO. And what we have to do now is to report to the ILO as to how we intend or how we have been implementing these conventions. So basically, we are in the process now. This week, we will be looking at what we call the establishment of a tripartite committee. And that tripartite committee includes the employer, the employee, and government. And you cannot attend an ILO convention unless you are properly constituted, which is the tripartite. You must have the union, you must have the employer, and you must have the government present. And recently, in June, we went to the ILO convention in Geneva, and we were well constituted, where we had representatives of the trade unions, we had representatives of the employers, and government was present. And that has to be financed by the government. The government must come in with its well-constituted committee. So that will minimize what we call friction among government, trade unions, and the employer. And if employers and trade unions and government can come to look at issues that are affecting workers, issues that are affecting employers, issues that are affecting government, we will actually go into the preventative mode rather than the cure and try to resolve matters after it has escalated into a crisis. So with that dialogue among the tripartite grouping, we are going to minimize conflict as we move forward. So it is a very good step in the right direction where we are going to create dialogue, because in the past, every time it's a strike, it's a seek out, it's always, and then we have a lot of loss of productivity on the job. So I see there is some light at the end of the tunnel in that direction.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.